And so we decided to merge People Power with Priscilla and the Mamleo Show. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning. This is what the weekday drive is going to look like.
Yes. We gonna make this happen.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am well. I am winding down.
Yes.
From my time as a police officer in the city of Boston. I have one more day. So
wow. How long were you a police officer, Larry?
39 years.
What?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. 39 years.
39 years.
One more year, it would have been 40.
It wouldn't have been too many.
Well, I am glad to see that you came on my show today. I'm glad to see that you are a community-oriented person, and the fact that you have put 39 years of your life, because basically that's what it's been, your life on the line for our community, and you continue to do it even when you're not working. I never got the chance to really thank you and honor you the way I wanted to when you saved that man's life. Back in, was it 2021 when we had the food drive at Mamleo?
Yeah.
And the Stop and Shop gentleman who was driving the truck literally had a heart attack, helping us unload the truck. And you and another sister by the name of Pam Love brought him back, And I tried to get the mayor. I tried to get Marty Walsh to acknowledge you. I tried to get Kim Janey to acknowledge you. I tried to get Michelle Wu to acknowledge you. They all ignored me. So I'm acknowledging you now, and I really appreciate that because that man could have been dead.
Well, he was dead, and as a matter of fact, I found out from EMS and the fire department that he was flatlined when they got him in the ambulance, and that the CPR that we administered on him saved his life. You have literally seconds. They call that window, that real small window of time when oxygen to the brain, to the heart, is important to do that. And it's one of the things they always say, you revert back to your training, and that's what kicked in was my training. And luckily I've had it, and God put me in the right place, as well as that sister there. But we were there doing God's work, right? We were there
unloading the truck for food to give out. We gave out like COVID, with and Boston Praise Radio was there. I mean, I was looking at some of the pictures of all the food and all the bags and stuff that we gave out that day. I mean, and I still try to do that now. Every Sunday I'm out. And I thank God for Brother Jamal Crawford and Trader Joe's. The church here is one of the places that I visit frequently with food. As we know, people in our community are in need. Exactly. And no one wants to be shamed for being in need. So, So so tomorrow's your last day. How you feel?
It's interesting because a few years ago when I was thinking about it, and I said I'm thinking about it, and this time I came to the conclusion that it wasn't just thoughts, it was going to be action, that I was going to be leaving. The job has changed in a lot of ways, and some good, but a lot of not for the betterment of when I came on. Like you said, we're having a difficult time recruiting. The hours are a lot longer. There's being more asked of you, of giving of time. And I've given this department 39 years of my life, most of my youth. Right. And the best years of my life are going to my family. They're going to get the rest of those years with my family. So that was really the factor. When I've been married now almost 12 years, to have 2 young children. So your priorities have changed dramatically. That's true. The more time I spend with them, the more time I want to spend with them. Right. So this allows me that, I'll still be doing things out in the community, but it's a different job. I was going to say off air, when I took the police exam, there were over 25,000 people had applied. Wow. And we can't even get 400 people signed up for this upcoming exam. I think that says a lot. And, they've been asking people to recruit people for them. And my answer is, I don't know anyone that I dislike that much. So I will not be recruiting anyone. And I don't say that disparaging. I just say that, I have to be honest with people about my time here, the many lawsuits as my time as president of Mamleo that I've had to bring against the city of Boston and the state. Recently, the $40 million judgment, promotions, drug testing, disparate treatment. This is internal. This is not external.
Right,
this is internal.
right. This is going on within the police department that they're basically discriminating against
and I
people
tell
that
people,
look like us.
if you're doing it to the people that are there, the public should not be not be taking it lightly that they're not on the receiving end of it as well.
Right.
But like I said, there have been some improvements. We're seeing more diversity. But I tell people, be careful with that as well, because if you don't have the right diversity, the right people in there who are going to speak to that, just having someone that looks like you, they say, oh, your skin folks ain't your kin folks.
That's true. That's true. That's so true.
It is true.
So I didn't introduce you properly, but I said Mamleo and Larry Ellison. So are you still going to continue the Mamleo program?
As far as, that is
because you still are a member of Mamleo, right? You're not leaving Mamleo.
No.
You're just leaving the Boston Police Department. Okay.
Exactly. Mamleo is in the blood, people like Billy Sylvester and John Wells and Paul Gaines and others who really shaped me on what it was like to be a black police officer and be proud of that, and that's why I tell people, I am winding down my career. That has been my career as a police officer. I am a black man. I will be a black man until I leave here. And so that will not change.
Right.
And I think sometimes people feel like you have to replace one for the other. That, being a police officer is your identity. It is not. It is a job.
Right.
It has an expiration date.
Right. And yours is tomorrow, January 5th, 2024.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of things going on that's going to be happening this year. But what I want to talk about, because you're going to be our MC, is the Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute. Second annual fundraiser. It's going to be at the Bruce Boland Building on this Sunday, January 7th from 2 to 6. Our keynote speaker is none other than our own Congresswoman Ayanna Presley. District Attorney Kevin Hayden is supposed to stop by. And we also have Pedro Cruz from the Youth and Engagement from the Mayor's Office, Executive Director, coming. So those are the celebrities. But we're also giving out awards. We're giving out 5 awards. We're giving an award out to Carrie Mays for being a youth leader in our community. We're giving out an award to Julia Mejia for being a trailblazer in our community, because I don't care what nobody say, Julia shows up. Julia has passed legislation that has helped us. Julia talks about her black Afro Latino, roots. And so we're also giving one to Professor Jermadari from UMass Boston. He's having a tough time trying to keep that program together over at UMass. It does not make any sense what they're doing over there. And also we're giving one to Courtney Gray, who I feel like does not get the recognition that he really deserves, around the trauma. I talked to him this morning, and he was telling me about an incident just last night where a 12-year-old girl got killed in a car accident on Morsi Boulevard.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, it's just always something, and this is his job, so hopefully he'll be able to be there. And we're giving and I can't never say the word right, a posthumous,
posthumous.
That's what it is. Posthumous award to Makia Baker.
Oh.
And so, Congresswoman Ayanna is going to give out these awards. And so we're going to have music, entertainment, vendors. We have about 9 vendors. That's a lot of vendors, but, people would, act. So in this room, they've changed the upstairs on the 6th floor a little bit different. So I'm really, really excited about this because this is our 3rd cohort. When we started Marcus Anthony, we did it on Zoom. And so this is, we just completed our 2nd cohort last year, and this year we'll be starting our 3rd. And so I'm really excited about the young people, because we already have 14 people have registered to be on the program, and we have been interviewing them and talking to them to make sure that they really want to do this work, and because it is a commitment. It's a 16-week commitment on giving up your Saturdays, half of, we're going to be teaching out of Roxbury Community College, and every other Saturday we'll be there, and the Saturday that we're not there, hopefully we'll be getting the van to take us take us around to our different places that we're going to be going. Field trips. Like the Freedom Trail. We'll be going to museums and colleges. Give them something different. We may take trips like up to Springfield to see the Basketball Hall of Fame. There's museums all over. That we can take our youth to.
Well, first of all, I think it's a very worthwhile program, and I think the foresight and understanding and getting our young people involved and plugged in is key, especially with all the craziness in the world today, right? That you're doing this. Are these kids, these young people, I should say, are they school age or what's the age?
Yeah, the ages are 14 to 24.
Okay. So.
And actually, we have someone that applied. I still got to call him and tell him. You're just too old. Honestly, he's young, but he's. I think that age, I would like to see him maybe come in like as a collaborator. Like maybe you can come in and assist, but that's another. That's an offline topic. I don't want to put him out there like that. But yeah, but I'm very happy about the young folks that I have that are coming, to work with me. I have found that there are some young, woke, black people in this city, and I have been fortunate to work with some of them. And I'm just thanking God because it's a lot of work. Because some of our young folks don't want to hear nothing. I mean, I've had those ones that just like, I ain't listening to you, woman, but I deal with them, I treat them the way that I want to be treated, because a lot of times as elders, the youth don't respect us because they feel like we don't listen to them. And sometimes they come off, that maybe you may not want to listen to them, but I always give them an ear. I always give my ear. I always listen to see where they're coming from.
Well, I think too, I find it, for my last 12 years of my time with the Boston Police Department was working in the schools and engaging young people, young minds. And I find it very difficult because they communicate differently than the way we grew up, right? They'd rather tweet and text. It's hard to keep their attention and have a real in-depth conversation with them unless it's on social media. So that's a real challenge that, we have to get our kids to understand that social media isn't the only way you communicate.
Exactly.
They can be in a room and everyone is
on their phone. Right. Yeah. It was sister that make you're not communicating. No. And they could be texting each other. That's the thing.
They don't communicate. So that's a real uphill battle. I don't know how we get over that because I talked to a lot of parents, and honestly, it's what drives a lot of the issues that we have with our young people now when they can mobilize in good ways, but also in bad ways. When they get 200 kids to show up at the South Bay Mall and just cause havoc. But we can't get 200 to come down to City Hall and talk about what we want and what we need, or at the State House,
And so that's what it's about. It's about organizing.
Well, it is, and to that point, that's why I say, I'm really concerned. I think that now that I will no longer be in law enforcement, there are some restraints as to what you can say in the public domain and things that I will no longer be under those. But even I say what I need to say. But I still know there was the limit. At being an employee of the city, you limit. That doesn't do it. Even on the broadcast, on the Memlia broadcast that we do here every Saturday morning, shameless plug from 7 to 10 a.m. We talk about issues that are
that people don't normally talk. That you don't, not every day. No. And it's like, how do we get this information out to our community? And because a lot of our seniors are not in the loop. A lot of them would like to be involved. That's where my senior soldier program comes in at. We got to get our people more involved and have a voice, because we all have a voice.
We do, but you talk about that, and one of the things that comes to mind to me is that like you talk about Makia Baker Gomes, right, who is no longer with us, a mentor to a lot of folks, right?
Exactly.
Billy Celeste was one of those mentors to me. Minister Don, who's helped us. So we're seeing a lot of the folks who were leaders here, and that's why I really appreciate what you're doing with the Marcus Anthony Hall, because we haven't really developed and cultivated replacements for them.
Right.
They can never be replaced in a sense of with the work that they've done, but we need it to continue to go.
Exactly.
And we're just not seeing that. We're seeing a real vacuum in leadership. And so what people are doing is tapping people who look like us, but the mission and the objective is
different. Yeah.
It's different. It's not even there,
Yeah.
So I think, 2024 is going to be a very interesting year. We're seeing it in the politics, and we can't ignore what's happening here, in this country with the politics, and that this is reminiscent, in my opinion, of almost a new civil war, and that we're going down a path that, when you read about in history, the North and the South or whatever, and now we're seeing the Republican and Democrats, and that folks are saying, when they say make America great again, it was only great for certain people.
Exactly. It
wasn't
great for us.
It still isn't great for us.
Yeah, and it's not, because they wanted to keep black people slaves forever.
Right.
They, in the Constitution, they said we were 3/5 of a person. Right. And that's why I think that Constitution needs to be overturned. Well, it needs to be, but of course, we're going to have to get a lot of people to change their mind. But I mean, really, you put us down as 3/5 of a person, right? Yeah. So that means you're not even acknowledging us as human beings. Well, so why should we acknowledge your law?
But if you think about it, right? When you look at this, the folks who signed the Declaration of Independence, there's no one that looks like us, and I mean that gender and by race, right? So I always say, if one of the framers of the original Constitution, when they wrote in there, all men are created equal, that's what they said, all men, they would have put in there all white men, because they thought anyone would literally interpret the Constitution. Because when you didn't think of this population of people as human beings, you didn't think you needed to put that in there, right? So I think they would have clarified that, because they didn't see us as human beings. And if you look at the folks that are being attacked, women's rights and minorities, right? Yeah. The people who they didn't consider, and they say, wait a minute, if these folks now have rights and they're exercising their rights, we don't want to see that.
Right. Right. It's really sad. But, like our motto is, we are the people, we have the power. We just gotta exercise it. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is we got to get our youth involved, because our seniors,
But, sadly, exercising is like folks who take, they do the New Year's resolution.
Oh, yeah.
They exercise for about a day. I don't even make
them. Yeah.
So exercising is not something you're going to get our folks to do with their mind or their body. And we really need to. We really need a collaboration of folks, regardless of your ethnic background and regardless of your race. Yeah. We need like-minded folks, because this is going to impact all of us.
Exactly. And I don't understand why why some of us don't understand that.
Well, and there are so many glowing examples. Let me give you a perfect example of right now with this election, because I think it needs talking about, and we're definitely going to spend more time on your upcoming event. Israel is a perfect example of what the United States is going to look like, in my opinion. You had a leader in Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, who had some criminal issues, who was engulfed in his own personal things, and the country was attacked because he was too busy with his own things. And even now, it is about him staying in power than really dealing with the problems that Israel has. Well, what do you think Donald Trump, if he's reelected as president here in this country, what he's going to be focused on? Retribution. He said, I am your retribution. He's going to be going after people, his enemies. He wants to be a dictator. You think he's going to be paying attention to, we have enemies in the world. And folks who think that he's only going to be coming after certain people, only certain people are going to be impacted by this, are sadly mistaken. Yeah. So you have examples of what the United States will be like under a dictator, because we're seeing that around the world. And so if we sit back and say, well, we're in Massachusetts, it's not going to impact us. Okay, well, the Supreme Court's decision about women's rights has impacted it. And just watching whatever side you're on as far as abortions, right? I'm pro-life. But I'm not the morals police. I don't tell women what to do with their bodies. The irony is that these are the same people that says, I have a right to carry a gun, as many guns as I want. But as a woman, you don't have a right between you and your doctor. And not just an abortion because maybe you don't want to carry the child to term. But, I mean, I'm looking at some of these, and their doctors are saying that this is your health. You have the risk of dying if you carry this child to term. This is not someone who doesn't want this child. They're telling the child the odds of it living are very small, if at all. And that the courts in Texas and places around are saying, nope, that's not good enough. You must die to convince us that you would have died.
It's insane. It's insane. I'm telling you, it just does not make any sense.
No.
And it's like,
yeah. So we have work to do. I don't know. Again, I think the Marcus Anthony Hall is a good start. But even here, how many people really, we talk about all the time, we talk about it on our broadcast, on your broadcast, been talking about it for years, the lack of interest in electing our officials. And here in the city, every year there's an election.
Every year. Don't a year go by we don't have some type of election.
Right.
And that's why we started the Black Local Organizing Committee, because we wanted to start a new Black political task force, and we may not be doing it the same way. Of course, we can't do it the same way they did it back in the 70s, because everything is so different now, but we do have mechanisms now that we can reach 100,000 people. We can reach a large stream of people to work with us and to help us, because it's not only affecting us here in Boston, it's nationwide. It's even if we look at some of the cities and stuff inside of Massachusetts. And so I think we start with Boston, and we just build the Black Boston. And it's not just Black Americans, it's other people, Africans, Haitians, Trinidadians, Jamaicans, all of them. But some of them come with the attitude that, blacks are lazy, because that's what they're taught. Blacks don't want to do this, Black Americans don't want to do that. So you have those, and then you have those on the other side that say, wait a minute, if it hadn't been for Black people, we wouldn't even be here, because they're the ones that built this. We need to side with our American brothers and sisters,
right.
And so you have those two groups, and then I find out within those groups, they have their own fights, just like we as Black Americans have our fight. They have their fights,
Right.
And so it's just about, because I'm feeling like we're all oppressed by the same oppressor.
Well, you think about the slave trade came through the Caribbean. Right? And I tell you, the only difference between my brothers and sisters from the Caribbean is where they dropped off our ancestors on the voyage here, right? Because that was the slave trade went through there. But you just look at what's happening, and people don't want people to understand the real history of slavery and how bad it was. You have candidates like Nikki Haley, who was asked, what was the Civil War about? She couldn't even say slavery, right? It was about people's disagreements, or people wanting to have their rights.
Slavery.
It was about slavery,
exactly.
Right? But this is what I'm saying. And in Florida, you can't even teach about Black history. It's persona non grata, and that the governor there, DeSantis, saying that, slavery wasn't that bad. It was really a job program for Black people.
So he should be slapped for that, because it doesn't make it.
That's why
How were you brought over stolen from your country, put on a ship with hundreds of thousands of people, and that's a job opportunity?
Well, if I could be wrong, but I don't think Carnival Cruise Lines was in operation back then, so it wasn't a cruise ship that we came over here on. But again, if our young people and people in general, regardless of race, is not understanding the real history and the stain, we're not talking about hundreds of years ago.
Right.
This is within our lifetime that slavery was still going on. Something that my mom, who's longer here, experienced. When they had, you see about fountains with blacks only, whites only, hotels where you couldn't drive through certain places.
You had to go through the back door.
Yeah.
You come in there to entertain them, and you got to go through the back door.
Right.
You can't even use their hotels and stuff. You got to go to some people's houses and stuff. Yeah. But it seems like, back in them days, we were kind of like more together. Like during the civil rights,
we had no choice.
Yeah, right.
Because we could only go through the same door, so we bumping into each other. Now we think we're being included, because in my opinion, modern day slavery, like I went through forced busing, right? But in my opinion, that was just discrimination, right? It was one of the worst times of my life.
And some of our elected officials that are sitting in office now were part of them rock throwing people from South Boston.
Right. Right. But to me, like the modern day slavery today is the lack of education that our children are receiving in our school system.
Exactly.
It's appalling that there isn't more pushback from parents and the public. Boston Public Schools spends almost $1.4 billion a year. That's with a B, a year,
And what are they teaching our kids?
The population that has declined dramatically. When I started working there was 75,000 students. There are about 46,000 now, somewhere around there. And we're spending more money, and our results are not yielding anything.
And Aaron Murphy said 22,000 of them aren't even showing up. So if you got 47,000, 22,000, I know that number's kind of exaggerated.
It probably isn't. On a daily basis, it probably is not.
My thing, Larry, if you are allocating for 47,000 Boston Public School students and only 25,000 of them show up, what are you doing with all that money?
It's administrative. It's top heavy.
That's
it's a lot of that. They spend like close to $80 million or maybe more. I could have them on just bus and transportation.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sadiqi.
Yeah, look, I just want to call in very quickly to offer some clarity around this issue of the Civil War and why it was fought. Look, I'm not a supporter of Nikki Haley based on, what she's about. But let me just say this, that in actuality, she's correct. We're fooling ourselves if we think that this country went to war, all of a sudden developed a consciousness where they felt that black people were being brutalized and we need to do something about it. No, that was not the case. What was going on was that the South basically said to the North, look, the bulk of the prosperity that's going on in this country right now is based on what we deliver, and we want our fair share of what's going on. And if, in fact, you can't deliver that, we will secede from the Union. Abe Lincoln made it very clear that in terms of the Civil War, it was fought about saving the Union, not about slavery. He even stated, he says, if saving the Union requires keeping slavery, I have no problem with that. So I'm just saying that we as black people need to understand the fact that that war was not fought to free us. It was to save the quote-unquote Union. Now, the result is supposedly we got freed based on the end result of the war, but that was not why. And, it all depends on how you define freedom. But the bottom line is that we need to make it very clear, particularly for our young people, that war was not like white people said, you know what, this is really terrible what we're doing to black people. We got to go and die for them in the name of human rights.
Right, it was about money, really. When you think about it, it was about money.
We need so, I'll just end it with that so that
no, I don't disagree with anything. Right. No,
you're right, Priscilla, was about money. So I'll let it go with that.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with anything you said, Sadiqi. I think you're spot on, and it's sadly that is not taught in our schools. What I'm saying, the issue I took with Haley is to act like it didn't even exist. That somehow, and she's right. She was framing it in the way that this was over a commodity. This was over property that we owned in the South, and they did not want to give that up. The free labor. That's really what it was about. You're absolutely right in those regards. But what I'm saying is for it to act like it was a transactional, that to not even mention the slavery part of it, it's the world we live in now. It's the direction that this country is going back to, and in my opinion, would love nothing better than to have us back in that position.
Well, I understand what you're saying, because you just put it in the context in terms of Nikki Haley. I'm just saying that our young people are being taught that the war was fought over slavery, and we need to make it very clear to them that it was not. So
no, absolutely no, and that's I know you want to go. Is that also when I was talking about in Florida with the governor there, we're not teaching the real history, not wanting the real history in this country, not just in Florida but in other states, the real history of this country. And how it treated black people and continues to treat black people in this country. That's the appalling. And even in this liberal state of Massachusetts, that's not being taught. Civics is not taught in the schools in any meaningful way, and it's definitely not taught in a lot of these homes. And that's the scary part. Is these kids are thinking that everything they're getting on social media, that the billionaires Jay-Z and them, that's how black people always lived, not understanding the struggles that black people continue to go through. It's just like you look at this immigration issue, right? And I'm talking about closing the border on the northern border. It's just when people coming in that look like us, all of a sudden when you can't get the labor for free, but they're persona non grata.
Yep. Okay. Okay. I just want to make that point.
Appreciate that.
the time.
All right, no.
Thank you, Siddiqui. Have a great day.
Same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, they do what they want to do with our history. They change it, they erase it, and that's why we have to keep talking about it.
Yeah, but see, this is where it is incumbent upon us. My wife and I, we teach our children about their history, about their culture. And we live in a community that doesn't have many people that look like us, not because of any identity crisis that we don't want to be, but we understand that if I lived in Boston and my children are school age, realistically, we would have to expend more money to put them in private schools just to live here, to be around people that look like us, right, and be in that culture. So that's the trade-off, sadly, but in also the safety. It's not common for young people to be assaulted, shot, or the behaviors that we're seeing in the inner city and in some of the suburban towns. And so you have an obligation as a parent to make sure that your family is safe, your children are safe, but also educated.
That's right. That's right.
And not just what they get them in school, but what they also are getting outside of the school in your home.
Exactly. Also, the issue with around Metco. It was a good program. I know a lot of people that went through Metco. But then again, I feel like being a student at Metco, you lose some of that socialization that you have, because you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get on the bus to get to school by 7, and then you don't get back home until 4 or 5 o'clock at night.
If you're lucky. But that raises the point we're saying. $1.4 billion budget. Why do we have to bus our kids outside the city when we're spending that kind of money and on the education system here? I'm not talking about educating people, but on the education system.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. So that and people don't look at it is that is the national gross product of some small countries.
Right.
$1.4 billion.
Yeah.
Right.
And not only that, the fact that you have so many. There's so many, like the teachers and they spend too much on administration. Too much. Do we have a caller? Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. Good morning. I'm listening to two of my favorite people talking about something that is really important. And I was wondering, what is your thoughts? This is Leon.
We know who you are. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's good.
I'm listening with a lot of intent with regards to what you all are talking about. And I'll tell you, I was wondering, what's your thoughts on this Harvard University president and her moving forward and essentially resigning? And why is it that African Americans, particularly the city council in Boston, city council in Cambridge, all these black elected officials that black folks tend to elect, said nothing, it appeared.
Well, Leon, so I'm glad you brought that up. So I was watching, and I almost jumped through the TV this morning. I'm watching one of the news outlets, and there was a conservative commentator on talking about, as a president of Harvard, she should be held to a higher standard in that her behavior, she has to set the example. And I'm saying, wait a minute, these are the same people who are backing a former president with 91 indictments, right? That the president of Harvard should have a higher standard in behavior and accountability than the president of the United States. But the problem is that the other side has said, we don't care. As long as he's going to do our bidding, we will get behind him. And you're right, we won't get behind people. As soon as someone says, hey, Larry stubbed his toes, we can't support him any longer, we run like cockroaches when the lights are turned on. That is the problem, Leon. You have been a staunch supporter and advocate for things, for change, but it's like you're preaching to the choir. And until we say, you know what, that's not a disqualifier for us. When we put it beside someone who has 91 indictments.
Unbelievable. I think we have another caller. Yeah. Hold on, Leon. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Sister Priscilla.
Hi, how are you?
I'm blessed, thank you. I have a question. I just wanted to say I love what y'all are talking about, but I have a question. So what do I say to the kids between the ages of 25 and 30 who want to vote for Trump? They just, for some reason, they want Trump.
You ask them, why do they want Trump? That's the first question.
Yeah, that's the first question. You're right. You're right. And what do I say to them?
Well, I would say to them, what you're reasoning for it, right? So because a lot of people are talking about how Trump was a successful businessman. Trump had been in bankruptcy at least 4 times, right? He's under indictment now. He's under investigation for tax fraud and everything. Trump is just a modern day snake salesman, right? And a crook. Call it like it is. So they're enamored with celebrity. And not status. Facts, right? Because I tell people, they talk about the age. Trump is only 2 or 3 years younger than Biden, and he seems to be exhibiting more dementia than Biden is in these days, right? And they ask him, here's how I would answer to them in the short term: do you want your grandchild running the country or your grandfather?
My grandfather.
Okay, right. So, and that's the difference.
For myself.
Right. And so they asked them, would you have your grandchild close to the nuclear buttons, someone who is saying that they're infringed? Because, again, as I alluded to earlier, we already have we see what dictators, we see what happened. And that's why it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't get the attention. What happened in Israel is a prime example of what the United States is going to look like, because we'll have, if Donald Trump is reelected, we'll have a president who is just focused on retribution. He said, I am your retribution. He is talking about executing secretaries of defense, generals, because they won't break the law for him. And so
he just needs to go to jail. That's all I got to say.
Right.
He does. 91 indictments. Come on.
Right. But this is where people, like I said, they get enamored with celebrity and not facts. So provide them with some facts if you can. And they all of these young people know how to Google. If they don't, Google it for them and send it to them. Send it to them. Someone who claims about being moral has been married 3 or 4 times.
Leon, you got something? You got a comment? You still there?
Yeah, I do. Here's the deal, and this I agree with you, Larry, and thank you, Priscilla, as well. And the caller for that particular question. My concern, and I think it's what the caller is saying too, is what do I say to young people that are disenfranchised with the Democratic Party? Actually, Charlemagne, and I don't like using that word that he says after his name, but Charlemagne, that guy that is with the Breakfast Club, has just come out and said, hey, guess what? The Democrats need to do more. And I tend to agree with him that he is not contrasting he's not contrasting himself versus Trump. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Well, I think too is, I know she's got a call, is that people really aren't plugged in as much as they will be. And I think you're going to start to see that as the weeks draw closer to the upcoming election. I saw an ad this morning that kind of ran and it really got my attention. President Biden and Vice President Harris put out an ad really highlighting, the January 6th. People have short memories. We're coming up on the anniversary, the 3rd of January 6th. And people act like some folks are representing it as a visit to the state capitol.
Oh, no.
Which it wasn't. It was an insurrection.
It sure was. We haven't. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Thank you for your call, Sister Lori. Hello, caller.
Thank you.
Hello. Did we lose?
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Grace. How you doing?
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for having this, Sister Priscilla, Pastor Bruce Wall. I'm just calling to say that why are we voting for Biden when Biden has locked up over 2 million innocent black men? And every crime bill that was ever created in the history of America, Biden's name was on it. And his whole career, he has caused mass incarceration with our people. So we need to deal with that.
I'm not saying, look, there is no perfect candidate, and I'm not saying this really comes down to the lesser of two evils, right? Donald Trump, the Central Park Five, Donald Trump, even after they were exonerated, he took out a full page.
But they're not, anyway, they're not the only two candidates running.
No, they're not, but it looks like they're going to be the two that make it to the finals. I mean,
okay, but we should vote for Biden,
no, I'm not
who has destroyed our black community. Our men are locked up. Our kids are shooting each other because they don't have no fathers.
Well, here's it.
Our children are in foster homes.
So, are we going to have a conversation?
Are you blaming all that on Biden?
Right. That's exactly right.
Blaming that on mass incarceration. If you lock up 2 million black men, if you lock up 2 million white men, yes, you're talking about the destruction of the family, a destruction of a black community.
Mm-hmm. So I don't agree with that. And I'll tell you why. I grew up in these.
You don't have to agree, but you could look at the studies.
Okay.
You could call the Boston Foundation, and you could read the studies that's been formed. That's why we have teenage pregnancies, broken families. Yeah.
So you're
blaming all that on Biden. Right. I don't understand.
So where's the So there's no person. No. So you right? I can read. I can read, ma'am. I can read, ma'am. How about we have a conversation here, right?
But you need to read
what
the
about
history of Biden.
So I don't hear you talking about anything about personal responsibility of individuals who are taking actions that may lead them to some of these problems that they're having. Because I grew up in a city. I didn't shoot anyone. I still come in the city. I see a lot of young people who don't shoot people, who are not incarcerated, because it's about choices that people make as well.
Yeah, but it's not just the individual. We're talking about the masses of our people. And you do know that every week our sons are being shot down in the street.
Okay. And who is doing the shooting?
We have more deaths in Boston than they have in Ukraine.
And who is doing the shooting?
You do know that.
And who is doing the shooting?
No money is being funneled here. There is no troops coming here to save our kids who are being slaughtered in the street. You do know that.
But you know what, Grace? You know what? We as black people of color, we're the ones that have to.
No, we're not people of color. We're James Brown said, "Say it loud." We're black people. We're not people of color. That is just a racist term to call ourselves. That you said about black history.
Okay, so
that's
let me just.
History. Our people.
So Miss Grace, can I get a word in here, Miss Grace? So Miss Grace,
we must speak for ourselves.
What are you doing to combat this? What are you doing to combat these issues that you just addressed that President Biden is not addressing and everyone else? What are you doing in your community to make it better? What are you doing for these young people you just identified that are shooting each other? What are you doing? Because you're sitting here pointing the finger, and there's a finger pointing back at you. So don't be so self-righteous.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. You're saying that. No,
because you're one-sided.
I'm not one-sided. I'm out here trying to do what I can.
But that's not right. You don't want to, because fear of retribution, you might lose your donations, you might.
What donations am I receiving?
But you're not portraying the truth either.
Yeah, I guess some folks live in alternative worlds, and I can't help you with that.
Yeah, so people have a right to vote for whoever they want.
They sure do.
But give them the truth.
All right, Grace. I don't want to get into a back and forth. Thank you for calling. We appreciate your call, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
I know your time is limited, but can I just jump in for 1 second?
Go ahead, Leon.
Thanks. What she was mentioning is something that has been playing out for a long time in the African American community, that we tend to believe that one individual, a senator as an example,
President Obama, right?
Yeah, a senator back in the day did something that was wrong. I'm talking about the 3 strikes you're out, and guess what? He is essentially attempted to reconcile that situation that he supported back in the day. And by the way, it was the 1980s,
right.
the drug addiction, the challenges.
It was a war on drugs.
I'm not going to blame that all on him. Okay. This is 402 years of oppression.
Right.
And 402 years of oppression it didn't happen by Biden alone.
No.
And so I'm agreeing with you, Brother Larry and Sister Priscilla. We got to be clear on this issue. I know you have more to talk about, but I don't agree with that young lady.
No,
and the other question that you mentioned is, what are you doing to address
right.
these challenges?
Right.
Period.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I appreciate you all. Keep on doing what you do.
Thank you, Brother Leon. We have to talk soon. I'm going to give you a call.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Leon. God bless.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye now.
And that's what we're up against. It's folks that are, quick to blame or point the finger. 39 years of my life I spent trying to help and continue to try to help. So I will not sit back and have someone saying, this, that. They're entitled to opinion. And I'm not telling people who to vote for.
Exactly. We can't tell people who to vote for. We, like she said, we need to read.
We can inform people.
Right. But look what Clinton did. 3 strikes you out. He's the one that came up with that 3 strikes you out mess.
Right.
And he was a strong. And Bill Clinton was a drug dealer and a drug user.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right. Right.
So there's been all down our history.
Mm-hmm.
We've had
right. issues
with our politicians and with our politricians. But all right, we're in 2024 now. But there's a lot of different
right.
ways that
but I tell Priscilla I tell people this all the time. If you're looking for perfection,
you ain't gonna find it.
If you're looking for perfection, make sure you remove every mirror in your house.
Exactly.
Okay? Because you will not find it in yourself. It's just not realistic. And the thing is, I don't look for elected officials to do things I need to do for myself. Exactly. There are certain things they do. I don't look for them to take care of my family.
Exactly.
I do that. That is my responsibility.
Right. I'm about holding our elected officials accountable. That's what I'm about, because we elected them and they need to be held accountable.
Right.
But like you said, I don't depend on them to take care of me or my family or my household or anything.
But this comes down to personal choices, Priscilla, right? I'm a father. Mm-hmm. I'm a husband, mm-hmm. right? A lot of my friends are husbands and fathers, right? Mm-hmm. And we take on with the responsibility that we've taken on. We take our responsibilities very seriously. Yep. And when folks are saying that someone who is going around, a lot of times they have children by multiple people. I'm not blaming the individual, but those are personal choices that you make. And if you think the government is coming in to save you, there is no government program that's going to replace being a parent.
That's right. That's the truth. That's the truth. I agree. And I just think, I think that, like you said, we all, look in the mirror. What are we doing? What are we trying to do? And so we'll probably never agree. We can't agree to disagree. I mean, we're never going to always agree, but we all have our opinions. And I think we're all fighting for the same thing. We're fighting against the system. We're not fighting against individuals. We're fighting against the white racist system that lives in this country. Because remember, back in the 70s, it was just mostly black and white. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, and there was a lot of people who were in high places that were bringing immigrants in to work for them and taking their passports and their papers and all that, because there were some people that came over on the right way.
Right. I know we only got a couple of minutes, and I want to pivot back to your event. So
we got 4 minutes. Okay.
See, this is what the mornings would
exactly
would be like.
Yeah, imagine we was on early during the drive time, right?
Every day,
yes,
right?
Yes,
and that's good. It's a good outlet for people to release,
especially because we don't have nothing else.
No,
right?
No.
So
real talk.
Real talk. All right. So yeah. So I'm talking about the Educational Institute, Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute. You all are going to be surprised. You all just don't know the young folks we got coming up. I'm telling you, we are the people and we do have the power. Mm-hmm. And Larry Ellison is going to be our MC, so we're excited about that. And he's partnering with us, unofficially, but he's one of us. They're one of our sponsors, and so. I'm asking. I know that they're talking about the weather, but if you can't make it, send a donation. That will help too, because we are trying to build our youth up. And it takes money, unfortunately. You know, you have these organizations that got they're large and everybody knows them and they get a lot of money. But how do we get the grassroots organization the funding that we need? And so I'm asking all of you all who are listening, if you cannot make it on Sunday, send a donation. It's going to help our children. We stipend our children. We give them a little stipend for to teach them. And we have banks come in. We have bankers come in. We have elected officials. We have college professors, chiefs of departments. We have people who have been through some things and know how to talk to our young people to encourage them. And so that's what it's about. It's about our youth, And so I'm asking, it'd be nice for you all to come out. We're going to have vendors. We're going to have singers. We're going to have spoken word. It's going to be a really nice event on the 6th floor at the Bruce Bowling Building, 2300 Washington Street.
It's a nice venue there, too.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice up there. And so we got some surprises. It's really going to be a nice event. So I'm asking you all to come out and support us.
Well, it's a worthwhile cause, and that's why I'm donating my time to it. It'll be my first event as retired. Looking forward to it. But no, and I think it, just some of the calls, it speaks to the work that we need to do, right? We are so disjointed. We are so fragmented, and a lot of it is lack of information.
Some of us, lack of trust among ourselves, I mean, when you got people been doing work in the community for 20 years, and they ain't millionaires and they ain't, I mean, really, this social justice work is real work. And a lot of people don't think so. A lot of, like some of our young people, they don't know. I don't care. I'm not doing that.
No, but
it's work.
Right. Supporting this broadcast. We pay for our time at Manville. You pay for your time here. It costs money to operate this. And if people want to continue to have these conversations, they should also donate to Boston Praise Radio.
Exactly.